I noticed it because I've spent a lifetime noticing small things. After 32 years as an accountant, you learn that nothing important ever announces itself loudly. The real trouble whispers. It hides in margins, in pauses, in movements people think are invisible. Like the way my son's hand lingered near my backpack. We were standing in his driveway that afternoon, the sun leaning low and gold against the houses. I had come by to drop off a set of old documents he'd asked for: birth certificates, school records, things he said he needed for something official. He wouldn't explain more, but lately Evan had been vague about everything. "Thanks for coming, Dad," he said, smiling too quickly. "You didn't have to." I shrugged. I was nearby. That was a lie. I'd driven nearly an hour, but fathers tell small lies to make their sons feel less like burdens. We hugged, awkward, brief. Evan stepped back, glanced over my shoulder toward the house, and then reached forward as if to adjust the strap of my backpack. That's when it happened. His fingers slipped inside the side pocket with a motion so smooth, so practiced, it would have gone unnoticed by almost anyone else. Almost. I felt the slight tug of added weight, heard the faint tap of something solid against the fabric. Evan's hand withdrew. He smiled again. "There," he said lightly. "You always carry this thing like it's going to fall apart." I smiled back. Old habits. He waved as I walked to my car. I didn't look back. I waited until I was 2 blocks away before pulling over. The backpack sat on the passenger seat, zipped just as I'd left it. I opened the side pocket slowly, as if whatever was inside might bite. It didn't. It was a small black USB drive. No label, no markings, just clean, cheap plastic. I stared at it for a long moment. My son had slipped something into my bag without telling me. That alone was strange. Evan had never been sneaky as a child. He was the kind of boy who confessed before he was accused, who cried harder over a broken vase than I ever would have scolded him for. But people change, especially when they're under pressure. I didn't plug the drive into my laptop. Not yet. Instead, I put it back where I'd found it, zipped the pocket, and drove home with my hands steady and my thoughts anything but. That night I slept poorly. At 3 in the morning, I woke with the same realization that used to hit me during audits. This wasn't about me. It was about where the drive was. If Evan wanted me to have it, he would have handed it to me, explained it, asked me to keep it safe. He hadn't, which meant he wanted it to be found on me. Or blamed on me. By morning, my decision was made. I brewed coffee, packed my backpack exactly as usual, and added one extra item, a note folded neatly. Then I drove back to Evan's neighborhood. I parked a block away and walked the rest, keeping my head down. His car, a silver sedan, was parked in the driveway, unlocked. Evan had always been careless about that. I used to scold him when he was a teenager. Old habits die hard. I opened the passenger door and slipped inside. The car smelled faintly of fast food and stress. Papers littered the floor, receipts, a crumpled parking ticket. I took the USB drive from my backpack and slid it into the compartment beneath the armrest. Then I placed the folded note on top of it. My hand lingered for a second. Then I closed the door and walked away. I didn't hear from Evan for 2 days. On the 3rd day, he called. "Dad," he said, voice tight, Did you find anything weird in your bag the other day?" I leaned back in my chair. Weird how? There was a pause, breathing on the line. "Like," he said slowly, "something that didn't belong to you." I imagined him standing in his kitchen, packing, running a hand through his hair the way he used to before exams. "I clean my bag regularly," I said. "Why?" Another pause. "Never mind," he said quickly. "I just thought I lost something." "I see," I replied. "Did you find it?" "No," he said too fast. "Not yet." We hung up shortly after. That evening, there was a knock at my door. Evan stood there, pale, eyes rimmed red. He looked smaller than I remembered, like the weight he was carrying had finally bent his spine. "Can I come in?" he asked. I stepped aside. He didn't sit, just stood in the middle of my living room, hands clenched. "You checked the drive," he said. It wasn't a question. I shook my head, "No." He looked surprised. "You did?" "No," I repeated, "but I know why it exists." His shoulders sagged. He sank onto the couch. "It's bad, Dad," he whispered. "Really bad." I sat across from him, start talking. The story came out in pieces. Evan had gotten involved in a business deal, an opportunity through a friend. Easy money, quick returns. He hadn't told me because he knew what I'd say. Then things went wrong. Fraud, stolen identities, fake accounts. The USB drive contained records, emails, transactions. Evidence. "They're investigating," he said, voice breaking. I panicked. I didn't know where to put it. If they searched my place, my car, I thought if it was on you. My chest tightened. "You thought they'd arrest me." "I thought they wouldn't suspect you," he said. "You're clean, you're retired, I just needed time." Time bought with my freedom. I stood and walked to the window, stared out at the darkening street. "You used me as a shield," I said quietly. "I know," he sobbed. "I hate myself for it." I turned back to him. "Did you find the drive?" He nodded slowly. "In my car." "And the note?" He swallowed. "Yeah." The note had been simple. "I saw it. We need to talk. You don't fix lies by hiding them." "I didn't open the drive," I said, "but I will if you don't do the right thing." He looked up. "What's the right thing?" "You turn it in," I said, "with a lawyer today." His face crumpled. "I could go to prison." "Yes," I said, "or you could ruin 2 lives instead of 1. Silence stretched between us. Finally, Evan nodded. "I'll do it," he whispered. The investigation took months. Evan lost his job, his savings, friends disappeared. There were charges, fines, and a suspended sentence that felt heavier than jail. But he was free, and I was still his father. One evening, long after the dust had settled, Evan sat across from me at the kitchen table. "I really thought you wouldn't notice," he said softly. I smiled sadly. "That's where you were wrong." He looked up. "I've spent my life catching what people hope stays unseen," I said, "and I raised you. That was never going to slip past me." He nodded, eyes shining. "Some lessons come wrapped in forgiveness. Others come disguised as quiet acts of refusal. That day, I chose not to carry my son's mistake. I chose to make him carry it himself and become better for it."